All right, all right, all right. Here we are. Another Tuesdays with Tesho. Back at it again. I see a lot of familiar faces. My guy Cody, always here. Love you, Cody. Mitch, my guy's here too. Jay Hot. Man, everybody here. All you guys are here every week, so I appreciate you guys a lot. Thanks for coming. Thanks for tuning in. You there, Alex?
Tesho, what's going on, man? Thanks for having me on here. How's everyone doing?
Dude, yeah, it's all good. I was thinking, man, that you're the first person that I've had, like, their whole episode that I met through Twitter first. Like everybody else, like I knew, through playing soccer mostly. But you're the first person that I met through Twitter. So this has come full circle for me right here.
This is the new world we're living in, huh? You don't
Yeah, for sure.
we work with people, we meet people, we hang out with people in this metaverse online world. Um, that's so funny. I feel like I know you though. Like if we when we meet in person, um, it's gonna be like we've known each other for years, but it's just that is funny and really cool though that we're able to connect and just hang out and talk about interesting stuff. On
Yeah, we're old friends at this point, bro. Like for real. And we met on Twitter Spaces too, which is like that's what I think is so cool about Twitter Spaces, honestly, is like we're standing here and I'm staring at my phone and I can see everybody who's in the room and I can like click on their profile and be like and that's I think that's what happened with you is we were in a Twitter Spaces probably talking about crypto, one of our favorite topics. And I clicked on your profile. I was like, oh, this dude's a soccer player. He's into crypto. He's into real estate. I was like, all the same stuff as me. And then I think I DM'd you or you DM'd me. I can't even remember. Then we hopped on a call. So, I mean, I love this stuff, bro. I really love how you can connect with so many different people so easily.
It comes full circle. And I mean, just in this last year, I feel like I've met so many new people through Twitter, through Twitter Spaces, just people who are interested in the same things because we're in this world now where information is free if you know where to find it. And connecting with people like yourself, connecting, listening to other people on Twitter, following the right people is really like a cheat code to life because that saying your network is your net worth is so true. And, that's something that I focus on a lot because these relationships that you make, you never know what opportunities are going to come from it. And you'd be really surprised how powerful they can be. It's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny because a lot of people, even like a lot of my teammates, and I'm sure you face the same thing with your teammates. They're just like, man, social media is just like a negative space for me. And I just like I delete like a lot of people I know like they delete it off their phone or they'll like download it to post something and then they just delete it back again. And I'm like, man, you guys are just missing out. Then you just need to be following the right people, like go into the right spaces, And it's super like positive, super powerful in my opinion. I don't get so much of the negative side that other people are saying. And of course, like there's haters on here who will say negative stuff, but I feel like the positives way outweigh the negatives.
I'm with you. It's
Yeah,
it's about knowing how to use the tool, right? There's so many tools out there. But
yeah,
if you're just following meme accounts and just scrolling through Instagram and TikTok reels, you might not get as much value out of it.
yeah.
But
Dang, we got the
let's
official
dive in.
Birmingham. Yeah, let's dive in. We got the official Birmingham Legion, team Twitter account on
Oh,
here,
let's
so
go.
that's great. Yeah, we're big time
Squad's
now. We
in
made
here.
it. The squad's here. All right, so I don't know where you want to start. I guess just tell us a little bit about like who you are. Is probably a great way to start.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so I'm Alex Crognale. I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio. I have played soccer my whole life. Got a scholarship to go to the University of Maryland. Played 4 years there with Sasha Sarofsky. After my senior season, I signed a homegrown deal with Greg Berhalter and the Columbus Crew, which took me back home, which was amazing. So I spent 3 years playing in front of family and friends in Columbus, which was great. And now I'm in my third season with the Birmingham Legion. So it's my 6 years as a pro. I think I've learned a lot. I've gone through a heck of a lot of ups and downs. I was loaned out twice with the crew. So I spent a decent amount of time playing with the team, but also was shipped across the country a couple times And those of us who know this world, it can be difficult, both physically, emotionally. Your relationships, your life gets kind of twisted and turned all these different directions. But those are the times when you learn a lot about yourself and you grow as a human. Um, and throughout this process as a professional athlete, I have come to love investing and furthering um, my place off the field, whether it be you know generational wealth, trying to build for my future, trying to create different opportunities with startup companies. Um, of course, now crypto and this Bitcoin craze that we're seeing nowadays. But um, it's always been in the back of my mind. I studied economics and graduated from the University of Maryland, so I've had an interest in the markets and the way our global economies and the way money works fundamentally. So when COVID struck and everyone was inside for months at a time, I spent a lot of time reading, um, researching, learning about the stock market, the real estate market, learning about Bitcoin, and I really went down this rabbit hole and became infatuated with this industry and this new economy that's emerging with Web3, the metaverse, and Bitcoin as a savings technology, as a monetary tool for not only individuals here in the United States but across the world. People who are wealthy, people who are poor. There's a solution for you with this amazing technology of Bitcoin. So, I've that's me in a nutshell. And I love being in these environments on Twitter and on social media, just learning from other people, talking to individuals about what I'm doing and my strategy and how I see the world, but always willing and open minded and ready to learn. So when Tesho connected with me, um, and we were able to get on a call, I think we chatted for 30 or 45 minutes just talking about what we're each working on in our own lives. And there's a lot of parallels, a lot of similar interests, and a lot of learning that goes both ways. So for me, these are the types of relationships and types of environments I like to put myself in.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great intro. It's funny that one thing COVID hits, next thing you know, you're here on Twitter with laser eyes talking in a Twitter space about Bitcoin. When they talk
Man,
about going down the rabbit hole of crypto, like you really went down the rabbit hole. I feel like
bro, I changed this profile picture over a year ago. I'm ready for because
100K,
the
100K, right?
100K, right? The
Yeah.
Bitcoin marketing team, which is kind of a joke, right? Because Bitcoin, there's no CEO, there's no board behind Bitcoin. It's just the grassroots effort. And it was this thing last year, you know, throw the laser eyes on your profile image, and then when Bitcoin hits 100K, then you take it off. So then I set it my profile image, and now we're a little over a year in, and I got some other NFTs and stuff. I'm like, maybe I switch it to that, but it's like I can't. I committed to the laser eyes until 100K, so I'm holding out strong. Hopefully, we see 100K
You're
sooner rather than
dedicated to the
later. But
cause.
yeah, but you guys better get used to this profile image because I'm stuck with it till we see six-figure Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I guess because me and you have talked about real estate, just investing in the stock market, crypto. What drew you so much to Bitcoin? Like, I feel like it's your kind of main passion, main thing. And I might be wrong about that, but like
Yeah,
what drew you so much to Bitcoin over like other opportunities, I guess.
yeah. Well, um, I mean, I started investing really early. In high school. It was my junior year of high school. I had a really cool personal finance class, and we talked about Ben Bernanke and the Federal Reserve and what they would do with the monetary policy. And I learned about this stock market back then. Um, and so I see my mom down there. I begged my parents. I'm like, can you guys give me a little bit of money to like try investing? And so I took some money as a junior in high school and just started playing around in the stock market, continued to invest my own money, and then just became, really interested in growing your wealth and letting your money work for you instead of working for your money. And that whole concept of paying yourself first was really interesting to me. Um, and then when, obviously years passed, I then got into real estate, put more effort into the stock market. And then COVID is really what um, led me to research and get into Bitcoin, because I saw it through 2017, 2018, where it went up to 17, 18, 19,000, and then it crashed down to three. And I didn't pay much mind to it because I thought it was just this speculative asset that um, people were investing in, that you could do really well, you could lose money. I didn't understand it. I didn't get the fundamentals and the principles behind it. But then, through COVID, with the the money printing that we saw, the quantitative easing, where we saw $10 trillion printed out of thin air over the last 2 years, and the inflation numbers just came out, 8.5% inflation. Um, and I spent my time. I did a master class on economics, so I was studying the St. Louis Fed, or Fred, the St. Louis Federal Reserve, the economic data. I would go on there and look at like unemployment numbers and look at how much, the real estate market prices and all these different things. Like I was so into it in COVID, right? I had nothing better to do. And then I started following and paying attention to some really smart people in the Bitcoin space, like the Peter McCormick's podcast, What Bitcoin Did, Pomp, and everything that he's doing. Jason Williams, going parabolic, Scott Melker, who's a great trader. I followed these guys and began listening to their podcasts and really understanding why Bitcoin is so important for really our world today. It completely upends the idea of money, and I became really passionate about it. I first bought Bitcoin in October of 2020, when it was about $10,000 of Bitcoin. And I didn't buy much, but it got skin in the game. It got me in the game. And at that point, once you start learning, I couldn't get enough. I've listened to probably hundreds of hours of podcasts and followed so many people here on Twitter to learn more about Bitcoin. And that led me to where I am today, where I not only am investing in Bitcoin, I am also getting paid in Bitcoin. So I take 25% of my paycheck in Bitcoin through an awesome company called Bitwage, which we can get into. I also have a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA that I've invested Bitcoin and some other cryptocurrencies in through a firm called Dorado. So for me, I see this as not only a short-term, or I shouldn't even call it short-term. I see this as a long-term play, and I'm in it for the long haul. I'm buying Bitcoin now, but I'm not buying it for tomorrow or next week. I'm buying it for the future and to hold and to build wealth through this asset.
Man, all right. You sparked a few interesting questions in my mind. First, you said your mom's there. I see Karen, so shout out to Karen. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. How like has your journey into crypto, like how has it been received by your family? And I know you're married as well, so like your family, your wife, how have they kind of reacted to it? Because for me, for example, like I talked to my dad, who my dad actually is like big on real estate investing, and we kind of do that together. But with crypto, he's like, you're crazy, like all of that is ridiculous. So he's like, I don't talk to him about crypto ever at all. So like, how has your family kind of received that?
Yeah, well, a lot of skepticism, right? If you don't truly understand something, and someone is as passionate about Bitcoin as I am, um, they probably think I sound a little crazy when I talk about it sometimes. And I talk about why I'm doing it, what I want to do, like all this money I want to put in there. And they're kind of like, whoa, 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 like slow your roll. But to their credit, over time, and I've also learned to, better ways of educating people about Bitcoin for like the very basics, people who don't understand Bitcoin. And I think this has been a problem in the past with like these Bitcoin maxis, right? They're super bullish on Bitcoin, and they think Bitcoin is right and any other currency, any other crypto is wrong. And if someone says something about Ethereum or whatever, they like shame you, and it's almost like condescending that like I'm Bitcoin, we're better. Um, but I think if you know how to maneuver it in the right way and just talk about the importance of Bitcoin and what this technology does as a savings vehicle, as the ability for people to send money across the world in milliseconds, um, with little to no fees, the power for people in countries like Venezuela with hyperinflation over 200%, this technology where it's a fixed supply. Um, the network is extremely strong, has never been broken. Every block has continued to be issued after 12 years. It's super powerful. And to their credit, I finished reading the Bitcoin Standard a couple months ago, and I wanted my parents to learn more about it because I think it's an important tool for them to learn about, and also allocate some of their money if they think so. So my dad is in the middle of reading the Bitcoin Standard, and he'll text me. Today he texted me about Bitcoin mining, and um, it's really interesting. Like if 20 million of the 21 million blocks are going to be mined by 2025, like is it really profitable? Like aren't they all going to be gone? And he had some really engaging and really smart questions, just because he's doing the work now. So the family has been supportive. It took a little bit of time to get them, you know, get them orange pilled, but I think they get it, and they probably still think I'm a little crazy, which is cool.
It's good to be a little crazy though, for sure. It's good to be a little crazy. That's awesome though that they're receptive to it. And I also feel like, just kind of with anything, in this case Bitcoin, like teaching other people about it kind of helps you solidify your thoughts and ideas around it, because of course like you did your own research and you like came to some conclusions, and then people start asking you questions that you might not have thought of, and then like as you can kind of answer those questions for them, you get more and more like solidified in your conviction of Bitcoin, I guess.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Um, it's really easy when someone really smart is talking about Bitcoin and you understand what they're saying. But it's a whole nother thing than projecting that and portraying that to the next person. And
Yeah.
I think that's something as Bitcoin continues to grow and adoption continues to grow, it's going to be from, you know, people like myself, people like the rest of us in this room here, talking to our friends and family about why Bitcoin is important to them and their situation, um, to have understanding and get mass adoption.
Yeah. And we're all learning, man. Cause even me, like, I think I'm a little bit less in the crypto space than you are, but I'm like super interested in it. And I'm still like every day I'm like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what's going on. Like it's just exciting. It's new. So I feel like I don't know. I'm always surprised when people just like completely write it off, because it's like, man, it's an exciting new thing, like might as well learn about it. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah, well, it's easy to say no to things, right?
Yeah.
If you don't want to do the work, it's easy to say, ah, they got lucky, or that's it's not worth anything without doing the homework. But to go out and actually test, the your test your idea of money, I think is which is a crazy concept to us because we grew up in the United States where when we go to the store, the $10 in our pocket, we trust that that's going to be $10 to the cashier, and the government tells us that your $10 is worth $10. But now we're learning the government can change the rules whenever they want. And we're seeing that where inflation is 8.5%. That's what they're telling us because the CPI, the basket is changing. So, it's 8.5% on paper, but in our everyday lives, people are experiencing probably 15 to 20% inflation with groceries, the cars that they buy, rent. It's really crazy. So to have a technology like Bitcoin that can't be manipulated, that can't be inflated, that can't be controlled by any government or any nation, I think is super important. And it's important that people learn about that so they can take control of their freedom and their financial future.
Yeah, I agree. And whether it's Bitcoin or any type of investing, I think people people need to like be serious about their finances, because it can make a big difference. Like it's hard to to picture yourself in 20 years. But, you know, if you do the small things right today, if you do your research, you start making like little decisions in the right direction, it pays off. And that kind of brings me back to something I was thinking of earlier is you said Bitcoin is a long-term play for you. You know, how do you think of long-term as an athlete? That's something that I've kind of been changing my mind off of. Because, you know, when I first got into the league, I was like putting most of my savings into a 401k, which obviously you can't touch until you retire, until you're like whatever it is, 55 or something. Um, but now I'm like, man, I need something that's going to give me money when I'm like 35, not 55. So how do you think about investing for the long term versus investing for when you're 35, since we're both athletes?
Yeah. You know, I learned the same when I got into the league. I, you know, did my best to max out the 401k. You know, I learned about the Roth IRA. I think getting dollars into um, tax advantageous accounts is and tax advantageous vehicles is really important. So getting the Roth IRA, you can contribute 6,000 a year. That's tax free growth. Um, Investing into a 401k that's tax deferred. I think doing that is really important. But to your point, um, you know, we don't retire at 65 as professional athletes. We retire at 30, 35. You know, if we're lucky, if we had a good career. Um, so there needs to be this idea of some, I think, cash flowing investment in your portfolio. And for me, what in it, and I know you're in the same boat. I think real estate is a really powerful tool or a really powerful investment for individuals like ourselves who want to invest for the long term, but are still thinking, hey, I need flexibility in my life if something happens when I'm 38 years old. You know, I don't want to dip into a retirement fund and buying real estate and rental properties that will give you the appreciation over the long term. You know, real estate has basically just continued to go up. Um, Other than 2008 and the crisis, real estate appreciates over time. You're having equity paid for by tenants who are occupying the property. You're getting a tax write off and the tax benefit from depreciation of owning that asset. Um, and you know it's it's flexible, right? Where if at any point you can sell the property, which I wouldn't recommend doing if you're in this business. You can leverage the property, which is something that I've done recently with one of my real estate properties, where you build up equity over time, and then from your tenants paying that equity off, you then have this equity built up that you can use to leverage other investments. You know, for example, I leveraged my one of my real estate properties, and I bought some Bitcoin, and I'll also plan on buying some Bitcoin miners. So that's another thing where I'm just going, you know, I wouldn't suggest that to anyone. I wouldn't recommend it. You know, this is not financial advice, but as someone who is very bullish on Bitcoin and very convicted on this technology, it was a play that made sense to me. We're in, the all-time highs in the real estate market. I think Bitcoin is still in a value territory right now. So to move some of that capital away from real estate and into Bitcoin made sense, while also keeping that property and and not having to get rid of that asset. So that was kind of a long-winded way of saying,
No, it
getting
makes sense
assets
though.
that
Yeah.
pay cash flow. Yeah.
Yeah, like the kind of a barbell. Like you got maybe your real estate for more short term, and then Bitcoin for long term is what it sounds like, which is cool because obviously you do need to think of like when you're 65. So I like that you kind of balance the two of them in that way. All right, up at the top on the what do they call it, the jumbotron up there? I posted your tweet. First, are you the first? You got to be the first pro soccer player. Period. It says first USL player, but I think you're the first pro soccer player. Period to get paid in Bitcoin, right?
So I'm the first American soccer player to get paid in Bitcoin. I can't remember his first name. For Toronto, he plays for Toronto. Achara.
Oh,
He's
really?
from Nigeria. He started getting paid in Bitcoin last year, and then through Bitwage, which is the company that I'm working with. And yeah, so I'm the first American soccer player, and I take 25% of every paycheck from my team gets direct deposited into my cold storage wallet.
So I guess walk us through that a little bit. Like how did you make the decision to do that, and then like what were the steps you had to take to start actually getting your paycheck in Bitcoin?
Yeah, for sure. Well, it really, I didn't plan on doing that. It just, this was an opportunity that just kind of came to be. I was connected with the guys at Bitwage on this other project. And as I was chatting with them just about what their business was like and et cetera, I realized that this was something that I was really interested in because I was buying Bitcoin on a pretty frequent basis. So they helped me take the fees and take the thought out of it, and it's a really easy process to get started. Um, I'll have to I'll have to throw one of their tweets up on the thing later, but um, you simply connect with your payroll provider. So I didn't even have to go through my team, Birmingham Legion, to get set up. I went to the payroll provider and told them to direct deposit 75% of my paycheck like normal to my bank account. And then the other 25% is direct deposited to a bank that Bitwage gave me the information for. And every paycheck, that money is automatically deposited to them. They convert it from fiat to Bitcoin, and they also do Ethereum, Bitcoin, USDC, and you can mix and match what percentage of allocation you want to use, and then it's direct deposited to your account with low or no fees, and yeah, it's peace of mind. It's automatic every 2 weeks. It's just dollar cost averaging in this asset that I'm really passionate about. So they're a fantastic company. They're awesome to work with, and I'm gonna drop one of their tweets up in the top so people can check them out too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love that. Just like if you believe in an investment, it just makes sense to like you said, cost average. And for people who don't know, that just simply means like putting a little bit of money into it consistently. So we get paid twice. Do you guys get paid twice a month? You guys get paid twice a month, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
we get paid twice a month, and you just buy Bitcoin twice a month because that's the investment you believe in. And you can do the same thing with your 401k. Like a lot of people do that with their 401k, and I think it's a great strategy because it just takes off like the decision making and the pressure, and then you just get used to like the 75% of your cash that comes like to your actual bank account. Like you get used to living off of that. So I think I love that you just did that. Just take all the pressure off of yourself, all the thought off of it, and you could just buy in.
yeah. It's similar to like a retirement contribution. Instead of contributing directly into a retirement account, I contribute directly into my Bitcoin savings account, which I really think of it as a savings vehicle, um, which is great. And I just dropped a tweet in the top. They just had an announcement with a top 10 UFC fighter who's also getting paid in Bitcoin. He just had a fight the other week and took his paycheck, his fight purse in Bitcoin, which is really cool. But yeah, click on their profile, check them out. Bitwage is dope.
Yeah, anybody interested, and anybody in here who wants to get paid in Bitcoin, go check them out. Tell them Alex sent
Yeah,
you if they ask to.
yeah, absolutely. And it's important to note that anyone can do this, right? You don't need a special company or to be special to do this. You simply get set up with Bitwage. They'll walk you through the process. You just have to connect to your payroll provider, and they'll take care of the rest. And then if you have a company, you can also give your employees the option to get paid in Bitcoin. So they offer both business and personal services. So give them a look.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so I guess now is probably a good time to just open it up to the crowd. Anybody, if you guys got questions, this is an open room, so just hit the request, and then I'll get you up here. You can ask us questions about Bitcoin, obviously, like we've been talking about, or real estate, whatever kind of
I
investing.
see.
So
I see Eli down there. I see Arun down there.
Arun,
Come
he
on up,
just he
y'all.
just messaged me that he's on a team bus right now, so he had bad service. But
Oh,
yeah,
word. Okay,
that's
okay.
my guy. He's definitely in the Bitcoin investing space. So But Fabian and Cody, you guys have been up here for a while. You guys got any questions?
No, I'm good, Tesho. I'm just listening in, just absorbing everything.
My guy, love it. No worries. All right, Brick BC, what's up?
How are you, Tesho? You well?
Yeah, doing well. How about yourself?
All well, mate. I'm coming down from down in Australia. Great conversations here. Fantastic listening to Alex. I'm not a football player myself. I had aspirations to be back in when I was 18, but didn't quite work out here in Australia. Very limited opportunities, but great to hear you combining both the real estate and the football, soccer, as some of us call them. But just listening to you, Alex, it's a fantastic journey, mate. In terms of look, hats up to you with we in terms of us, we actually tokenize real estate property here in Australia, obviously using the new technology in terms of blockchain to provide solutions around that, and tokenize property is what we focus on. But just listening in terms of what you're doing, and obviously as a professional footballer, and obviously looking obviously at Bitcoin, at in journey, how you started. Obviously, these guys would travel a lot as professional footballers, obviously all over the country. How much time would you actually have to spend and sort of obviously researching, learning in terms, obviously COVID, as you mentioned, COVID has provided a great downtime to do a lot of research. But on an average week, given all the travels and so forth, how much time would you put aside to sort of keep obviously up there what's happening with different crypto projects and just obviously that space? It's and obviously real estate. You're also involved in real estate yourself, as you mentioned, given the topic here. So how much time would you put aside? And obviously, given the challenges of balancing all the travels as a professional footballer.
Yeah, it's a great point, and I think it's really all about knowing yourself as an individual, knowing your strengths and weaknesses, and being able to balance. Because you can't do everything. You can't be, the best real estate investor, the best crypto trader, the best stock trader. You have to pick your moments. And the way I've always thought about investing has been making plays today that, if I walked away from my computer and came back a year later, I would be happy with the investments I make. So of course you have to put time to it. But, for example, the work that I did to get my real estate properties, I'm not continuing to search for deals right now if I'm not on the market. So this is a time where I'm focusing more on the Bitcoin side of things. And with crypto, you can't learn about every project. You can't learn about every NFT project. You have to be really smart about how much time you're actually allocating, because quite frankly, there's just not enough time in the day for you to accurately and effectively research these projects. So it's really knowing yourself as an individual, but it's important to put time into it. And I have a dog. When I go out and walk the dog for 30 minutes, I'll put a Bitcoin podcast in, or a real estate podcast, and killing two birds with one stone. Walk the dog, and you get the latest news on Bitcoin, for example. As professional footballers, there's more time in the day than a lot of us think, or maybe guys just use it as an excuse to whatever, play video games, to nap, whatever it is. But once we get home from practice, you have 2, 3, 4 hours in the afternoon before dinner. And if you have a family, of course, things are different. If there's a ton of different things that could be the case, but a lot of the guys that I've been around, just they're hanging out, and the guys that utilize that time, it shows based on things that they're doing off the field. So there's time to do the research. It's really just about committing to it personally.
Yeah, we have a great schedule, honestly, for this type of stuff. And you mentioned it, like literally every day we're home by like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. So especially if you don't have a family, you have like 8 hours until most people might go to bed at 10 p.m. You have like a full day to just kind of do whatever you want, and you could review film, you could nap, you could stretch, and then you still have hours. And I've been like just recommending to everybody that I know that plays, like, learn about investing, like, or get a hobby that's useful to yourself, because we do have so much time, and it's tough when you just see people wasting it, man. A lot of people do waste it. It's too bad.
That's a great point, Tesho. I mean, I'm a big believer. Like, as I said, I had aspirations to be a professional football player back many moons ago, but I'm a still big believer, as I work with the Brisbane Royal Football Club here in Brisbane, who's in the national soccer in the A League here, and obviously at the moment sort of just working with the CEO for the Brisbane Bulls, our national basketball team here as well. Education is such a critical part in terms of athletes, professional athletes, because as you guys know, in terms of anything can happen at any time. You basically your career could be stopped now, and the ones that are smart start to actually get like yourselves are doing, educating themselves in terms of whether it be real estate, whether it be the blockchain, different in terms of Bitcoin. Because at the end of the day, you're not guaranteed anything. Because tomorrow could stop for you, and you need to have that behind you. And at the moment, I'm actually working with the Brisbane Bulls. A good friend of mine who's a CEO for the Brisbane Bulls here. And we're actually trying to put a program to educate the players around real estate. And again, it's obviously we takeonomize real estate, but more around the fundamentals about real estate, and also educating them on the blockchain in terms of Bitcoin, Ravencoin, Ethereum. Just educating in terms of they need to start thinking about that now. And I'm a big believer. Football clubs, professional football clubs, or professional clubs in general, I think they also have a responsibility to educate their players, because at the end of the day, they need to have that balance. They need to start thinking beyond being a professional athlete. So I think I've been saying for a long time with our clubs here, both football and the basketball here, clubs have got a responsibility to educate their players from a financial perspective, and not many do. The ones that actually have a care factor about their players, they're the ones that do. And I guess in terms of that's what we're trying to sort of help them out as well here with the football as well as the basketball. Yeah. So
Yeah.
just to sort of my 2 cents worth there.
Yeah, actually, so I play in Major League Soccer. In the league, they have this program called Financial Finesse, which is open to everybody. And you can talk to financial advisors for free. Like any player in the league can talk to financial advisors for free. I think they started that a year or two ago. So, that's happening at a league level, which I think is a great step in the right direction. DKG, what's up? You've been up here. And then we'll get to Eli. It looks like that's your brother, Alex. We'll get to him right after.
Hey y'all, how's it going? Thanks for inviting me up. I saw your tag here, real estate and stuff, and I was wondering if you had looked into sort of NFT real estate and collateralization of that real estate coming up sort of in the ecosystem. Have you looked into that?
Not too much, but it sounds like I need to. Got you and Brick over here, both talking about it. So maybe you two need to connect too. And
For sure. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I have a couple other ideas. I'm a developer actually, so we actually use Bitwage as well. So that was kind of interesting to hear that a lot of us are getting our paychecks through Bitwage and getting the Bitcoin. It's kind of convenient. But I had this thought: as you're getting this Bitcoin, you're not really DCAing, right? You're just getting the Bitcoin at whatever price it is. So what if you could set it so you could do a limit order? So basically, you could DCA in with your paycheck when Bitcoin goes to a certain price level. While it's waiting to go to that price level, you could utilize this new sort of anchor protocol on Luna, Terra blockchain that allows you to get 20% interest while the UST is sitting there. So essentially, you could create a system where while your paycheck is waiting to place the limit order, it could collect 20% interest, and then you DCA into the Bitcoin at a good price. So that was sort of my thoughts there. Any feedback?
I mean, that
You can
sounds
always,
pretty. That sounds pretty impressive. It sounds like you need to be connected with the folks over at Bitwage to see if that's technically possible.
Oh, hit me up, man. Shoot a follow, and we can talk DM.
Yeah,
it's
that's
funny.
interesting.
It's funny you say that, DKJ, because our brick tokens, property tokens, we only use USDC as a currency to purchase swap for. So it could actually work in quite well using the USDC to buy our brick wallet tokens.
Sure. The whole ecosystem, the sense of utilizing your capital while it's idle, and then making your sort of movement and entering the market at a good time. The idea of sort of offloading this activity, like where you have to go and check the price and do all of this stuff. A lot of us, including myself, I don't have time for all that. So it would be really nice just to be able to kind of work, do your thing, and then just know that you're optimizing your entry into Bitcoin. That would be like kind of nice. I got the idea from this bidding platform that they have over on Terra Network. And basically what it does is it allows you to set bids using this UST, which is a stable coin, right? And so it's pegged to the dollar, whatever. You put your bids there, and then they collect 15% interest until your bid hits. So you can place it like 3%, 5%, 10% premium, and just it sits there and gets 15% interest, collects 15% APY, until your bid hits and you enter at like a 5% premium, for example, you're getting like a 7.5% discount. And so you're basically just sitting there collecting interest with your idle money and DCAing that way as well. So there's a lot of interesting idle sort of strategies that you can just kind of deploy your capital into these strategies, collect like a decent APY, 15, 20% APY, and then get an additional like 7.5, 10.5% on top of that. So it's an interesting strategy.
Yeah, that is interesting. And I feel like that's what's cool about crypto is it just kind of is giving people more control of their money in some ways, and I think, we're just at the beginning of that. And, the more control people have over their own money and can make good decisions, I think the better.
Oh yeah, I really like what y'all are doing because with a couple little, like just a couple strategies that you really understand, boom, you just maximize your gain like 10, 20, 30%. And so it really matters. I think that it's really cool what y'all are doing, educating everybody about like, here, you could get your paycheck in Bitcoin, you could do real estate, you could do all this, right? It's excellent. So appreciate
Thank
you.
you, man. Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I see.
Eli,
Well,
what's up?
but
Oh, go
before
ahead,
we go
Alex.
there, I see Sephi hopped up here, and he's got Terra Luna UST in his bio. So I wonder if he's got something to say on this topic before we go
I
to
guess.
Eli. What's going on, man?
You're good, bro. I'm waiting. Yeah, did you guys kind of on the subject that you guys are kind of covering? I think the general philosophy is you want to make it easy for people to make good decisions. I think that's like the summary of kind of what everyone's actually wanting. I think what people want ultimately is I push a button and ultimately my money's doing something useful for me. I think that's pretty much the summary of the entire DeFi space, like that simple. And so to what DKG was saying, essentially what DeFi really is attempting to do is create the right mix of stablecoin, which allows you to park your money in something that's not moving up and down, and volatility, which allows you to create wealth in the sense that you play off the volatility, you buy low, and acquire assets that either you intend to sell at some point in the future after price appreciation, or you earn some kind of consistent yield upon. So there are just, I think there's very few features in decentralized finance that actually matter. And some of those features are things like consistent revenue, good token economic model, et cetera, that we talk about a lot. And once you have that, then you can basically put together protocols that ultimately make it fairly easy to, buy something. So for example, like what DKG was mentioning, like something very simple would be like just a Bitcoin UST rebalancer, for example. So what a rebalancer does is every time your Bitcoin goes up 1%, it sells half a percentage and puts it into UST. And every time Bitcoin drops a percentage, it buys back, a half percent of BTC with some UST. And then, so you always have cash in the mix. You always have some Bitcoin. It just keeps on multiplying your money. So that's sort of like the secret to infinity. Like there's no, that's all you have to do really. And it's been made extremely complicated to do exactly that. A lot of that's because of, poor execution by a lot of centralized exchanges to not make it easy to like use investment products like that and make it really cumbersome from a tax reporting standpoint or whatever. And I think those are the kind of things that I think they're going to be fixed in terms of really cool opportunities in 2022, 2023, where literally you just go and park your money in something, and it just starts printing money for you. That's my vision for sort of where this all goes. Because like some of you guys, like the topic above, some people are in real estate, right? Some people are in sports, some people are in whatever. Not everyone wants to figure out all this shit, right? Like nobody wants to know how all this works. At the end of the day, nobody should have to know how everything works necessarily, because nobody has the time to sort that shit out, right? People have their own careers, they got stuff to do, they got to win games, they got to build buildings, whatever, right? So the sort of super specialization is good. And I think it's up to the DeFi community to build those particular platforms that make it easy to for people to deploy money, invest with a reasonable time horizon, risk strategy, and make people successful. That's kind of my thesis, generally speaking.
Man, I think you nailed it. Like, just making it easier for people to make good decisions with their money is so important. And even like Alex talking about how Bitwage made it super easy for him to just dollar cost average into Bitcoin. Like, he did one thing up front and he doesn't need to think about it again. Like, he's buying Bitcoin. I feel like just the more that we can automate that, and I feel like crypto really is going to help with that. Sefi, I tune into a lot of your spaces. I know you talk about, Terra Luna a lot, and it gets confusing fast, man. Like like right now, everything that's going on over there is very confusing. It seems like there's a lot of opportunities, but hopefully, like, people like yourself can keep just bringing all of those confusing topics downstream and, explain like I'm five to the rest of us, and we can just push that button, like you said, and make a good decision with our money.
One general piece of advice, though, is that the easier things are to understand, and the more of the, I guess, volatility and risk that has been removed from the system, typically the less upside there is. So, like, when we talk about a lot of those, like, really, really minutia technical details in DeFi or in some of the Twitter spaces and such, it's not meant to necessarily just freak people out and, like, kind of make people shy away from it. It's the idea that there is that complexity back there. And if people realize, hey, wait, it's not just about sort of like buying for some sort of random coin and hoping for the best, there is actually a method to the madness, then that leads people sort of right to the kind of like information breadcrumbs or whatever to get there. But no question, like, the earlier you understand something, the more likely, you're getting in on the ground floor of something, which means your tiny amount of money, like your $100, becomes $10,000, as opposed to parking parking $100 in something and hoping it goes to 120. That alpha is in the details, obviously, and that's the hard part for people to get to. Just because it requires so much sort of technical understanding to understand, like, what a good investment actually is, right? It's the same thing like in real estate. It'd be like, they say location is everything, or, there's other metrics. And when you're in real estate, you start understanding what those metrics are, right? Like, what makes a property worthwhile? What makes that particular building worth buying versus the one next door or the one in the next town or whatever, right? So in DeFi and in crypto, there are those sort of unique properties that make certain things amazing. And that's what I've been trying to sort of like bring forth in some of the Twitter space we discuss, things like that. So anyway, just
No, it's a great point. How do you, and I guess Alex as well, like, how do you guys think about betting on things that you feel like are really safe? Like, for me, I feel like real estate is like my base layer safety net versus, taking those upshots that you think you could, turn a little bit of money into a lot. Like, how do you guys think of that balance?
It's a good question.
Might be tough to answer without preparing.
Yeah, I mean, well, for me, don't invest money that you need in the short term, right? That's pretty simple. And like I said earlier, the investments I make are long-term decisions. So if I invest in Bitcoin today, buy some Bitcoin today, and it drops to 25,000, I'm not going to sell that Bitcoin, right? It was a long-term play. I'm going to hold it with the conviction, because you do the homework ahead of time. If you're investing in things that you don't understand, then you're going to be emotionally tied to the ups and the downs, because you don't know the true value, the intrinsic value behind it, what the fundamentals are. So for me, it just starts with doing the homework. I think that's a really important piece. If you don't understand it, talk to someone who does, and do the work before you put your money there. But yeah, I mean, it's about investing money that you can quote unquote lose, and having the right time horizon.
It's also a function of how much time you have to sort of manage your assets too. Like some of the commercial real estate I've produced, and some of the businesses that reside in those commercial properties, they require just an amazing amount of time to both bring to fruition and build businesses and things that are worth participating in. That itself is a very, if you start creating things, like, it's one thing to say, well, I bought a piece of land. It's a whole nother thing to say I designed a athletic complex, for example, and you sit around and actually sketch that up, draw it, bring it to fruition with architects and everything else, and that it's a tremendous amount of work. So I think the things that you're most passionate about, that you really enjoy doing, you're probably going to do much better than the things that you don't care that much about. So I think those that are really, really, willing to get into the weeds, really dig deep, are the ones typically that tend to be more successful. Whether it's real estate, whether it's crypto, it doesn't really matter what it is. I think that's a realization that I've kind of come to. You have to just figure out, where do you want to spend your time? And if you enjoy, discovering DeFi, discover DeFi. If you enjoy, drawing up buildings and getting capital raised to build them, well, do that, right? Or whatever. But either way, you only have so much time in your life, and you have to figure out how to deploy that time ultimately, and have fun with it.
No, I love that. Like, you don't need to do someone else's thing. Like, just do your thing. I'm a soccer player, so I shouldn't try to be a basketball player, because I'm gonna make way more money playing and be way more successful playing soccer than if I do someone else's thing. It's the same with investing. Like, if I know real estate better, or if I know Luna better, or Bitcoin, like whatever it is, like, focus on your thing. And that goes to everybody listening here. Like, you don't need to make it big on everything. And like, just because you saw somebody make it big buying Solana last year, or somebody bought Dogecoin and made $1 million. Like, you don't need to do that. Like, you can be successful finding your thing and just diving into it. I think that was a great point, Sefi.
It's true.
I'll throw something at you, Tesho. What happens if you could have something that's got both real estate and also blockchain and crypto projects within the same asset ownership? Wouldn't that be great? That's what we actually done. Our property token series, it's Australian real estate property, and we've actually got the properties. A property token series is owned by a special purpose vehicle, and it's tokenized on the blockchain. But that property generates rent. That rent is actually invested into a crypto portfolio each month, and basically, not only now you've actually got a property that's going up in value, but within the series you've also got a crypto portfolio that's increasing. So it's what we're calling, like, it's like a hybrid token where it never goes down in price, because, like a stable coin, it never goes down in price because it's always $1 as a USDC, for example. But we know that property value here goes up in price. See, our property here goes up, doubles up every 10 years. Ours is doing a bit more because we're in Brisbane, the 2032 Olympic city. And we've also got a crypto portfolio.
It sounds interesting for sure. So I definitely need to check that out. J Hodge, what's up, bro? This J Hodge bought my So Rare card. So big shout out to you. I hope you're enjoying it.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. I was gonna say, so in terms of Bitwage and the benefit, because I really like the space just to get more education on it. I like what Alex said about diversification. So maybe that's why he allocates the 25%. And I assume the dollar cost averaging helps, because I just noticed, like, Bitcoin over the last year is down 33%, Ethereum's up 40%, but I guess you're taking advantage of it if you believe it in the long term. Just wanted to actually just praise this space in itself, especially like Tesho as well, just with a big fan of like the education aspect of it, and definitely agree that there's a lot of toxic kind of trolling, kind of negativity, even about like NFTs, like the one that I bought off of like Tesho, is that, like, for me, it's like a hobby. I did well in it because I got in early, but you really have to have that personal interest, because I hear a lot of people who just want to make a quick buck, but they don't want to put the time in. And I think that's just a recipe for like failure. So just wanted to mention that I do appreciate these weekly kind of sounding boards. Picked up Atomic Habits. That's definitely a good one. Yeah. And just wanted to know kind of like what the strategy was between well, that Alex mentioned about like bit wage, just because I thought like I'd rather almost have the 25%, and then you can like put some into Ethereum, some into Algorand, some into, you know, like whatever is your thing. So just wondering about maybe the benefits.
Yeah, well, it takes the thinking out of it, right? So every 2 weeks, the 25% goes into Bitcoin, and it's easy to say, you know, well, you can just buy it when it's low, right? But then human psychology takes over, and then when it's low, people get scared and they say, oh, well, it's going to go lower, right? And then everyone's strategy shifts at a time when they don't expect it to. So for me, it takes the thinking out of it, but that's not where my investing stops, right? That's just kind of like the baseline. I know that 25% is going to go into Bitcoin every 2 weeks, but I also, you know, I will also make smaller bets on altcoins, or NFTs or these sort of things. But the majority of my crypto portfolio, you know, probably 80% is Bitcoin, and that's because I believe that's where I want to store my wealth, and that's where the majority of my money is going today. But that doesn't mean I don't do other things. But for me, it was an easy decision to allocate that as kind of like almost like if you do a budget, right? You say, okay, I pay $1,000 a month for rent. I pay $200 a month for my car. That was okay, I'm doing 25% into Bitcoin. After that, I'll decide how I want to allocate my money. But that's the first thing that I wanted to tick off my list.
And I might add something to that that might be a little bit different. I think it's like the absolute secret to dealing with hyper volatile assets. And if you take nothing away from this, like this is the secret to sort of infinite money printing. So take some notes. But basically, if you look at a high volatility asset that can vary in the neighborhood of, you know, 60 to 80% from tops, and not to say that I think BTC is going to drop 80% from the top. I think it's highly, at this point, super highly unlikely, just judging by lots of metrics. But one thing people can do is they can do a DCA, like you said, either daily or, you know, weekly or whatever. But you can actually escalate the size of that DCA the lower the price goes. So in my belief is like, for example, let's say I have Apple stock as an example, right? So I think it's around $170 right now. So if you bought one share today, and the price drops 10%, you should be buying like 2 shares a day. And if the price drops another 10%, you should be buying 3 shares a day. Or actually more aggressively, it's something along the lines of every 5% down to 7% down, I would double the size of the buy. So like with Bitcoin, for example, if I buy $10 today and price drops 5%, I'm going to increase that to $20. And then if it drops another 5 to 7%, I'm going to increase that to 40, 80, 160. So I typically go exponential. So that basically optimizes whatever bottom there's going to be. You optimize it maximally, and in order to do that, you'd obviously have to have some sort of like dry cash sitting on the side. But over the period of about 2 years, that's about what it takes to typically bottom out most sort of blue chip assets in the world, if not shorter. You're going to end up deploying your dry powder, so to speak, during that process. Some people say, well, what if you start this and then the price just goes straight up? That's fine. So what? Because there'll be other things you can do that with, right? Like a Luna or an Ethereum or whatever, or some decorrelated asset that has nothing to do with crypto, so you're basically perpetually dip buying exponentially, and that's pretty much the secret to really just free money, quite frankly. Like you just pick things that can't go to zero, and you exponentially buy them on the way down. So really, really simple.
That was the key. That things that you think can't go to zero. I feel like, don't do that with like lottery tickets or something like that. Do it
Right.
with
You're
something
not
that you
doubling
believe
down.
in.
Yeah, you're not doubling down at the blackjack table at Vegas, right?
Yeah. Funny enough, like the first time I went to Vegas, one of my friends convinced me to do that, and I had like $200. was like, double down if you lose on red. And I ended up losing all my $200, but
Well, see,
that's neither here
that's
nor
the
there.
thing. Yeah, that's the intuition because in gambling the house actually always wins. With something like BTC, which is designed not to be able to go to zero, using this tactic, you always win. In fact, go to any time in the history of Bitcoin and show where, like, tactically what I'd said was actually incorrect, and there's no time in its history that this would be wrong, right? So it's verifiable just by going back in the price history and saying, wait, if I buy bigger on the way down, I literally always win. There's no actual unless of course BTC went to zero or something, but that would be a whole different discussion entirely. So the presumption here is that, like, your Apple stock's probably not going to zero next week, or whatever.
For sure. All right, so man, usually I cut these off at an hour. I'm gonna stick to that. But Alex, if there's anything else you want to say or plug, like, go for it, bro. This was a really great space. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, man. Nothing to shill. I appreciate everyone for hopping in here and chatting. I think we could probably go for another hour with some of these topics. But no, Tesho, I appreciate you letting me hop in here. I hope this was either educational or entertaining for everyone who hopped in. So, come back every Tuesday for Tesho's with Tuesday. He's going to continue to bring some good guests in here. So I appreciate you, man.
No, for sure. I appreciate it. Yeah, so guys, make sure you follow everybody up here. And like I said at the beginning, I met Alex in Twitter Spaces. Like, Twitter is valuable. Twitter Spaces is valuable. Sefi, who I think you guys heard speaking, he always hosts Twitter Spaces, and I'm in there. They're super valuable. So follow him as well. Get on those Twitter Spaces, and you guys can learn a lot. And then, like Alex said, I'm here every Tuesday talking about, real estate, investing, crypto, soccer, whatever it is, life, kids, everything. So tune into that. If you missed this space, I recorded it, and then I'm also posted on YouTube within a couple days, so you could catch it there. But that should be it, guys. I'll see you next Tuesday. Peace.
All righty, everyone. Peace.